Hey, how's it going? And today I just wanted to do this video about some things to consider before you build your game in Fortnite Creative. For the last 2 or 3 weeks, I've been heavy into making a game in Fortnite Creative and using Unreal Editor. And I just want to start by saying that I think this is an absolutely fantastic program. I think it has so much potential to change gaming and game development and opening the world for people to create games without having to do any coding at all or know any coding. But with that said, how great it is and how much promise and opportunity it opens up for everybody, there are some drawbacks, and I just wanted to kind of touch on those because I'm kind of coming into them on a daily basis now. And as I'm doing this, I wouldn't change what I'm doing right now. I still think Unreal Editor for Fortnite is the way to get started with making games. I absolutely believe that now. I believe you should start here before you even start in Unreal Engine, because it's kind of an introduction into Unreal Engine, a nice and easy introduction, but it's not without its drawbacks and things to consider. So while there's a ton of assets available here, a mind-boggling amount of assets, like I'll just give you an example real quick. There's this character device, right? And if we click into it, go in here to Unreal Editor, and well, I guess I gotta push that, and this is one of the problems. I had to push that change, right? And actually this goes into one of the problems, getting ahead of myself. You have this downtime between building your game and playtesting it. So this becomes a factor if you think about it. You know, you have like shortcut keys, and everybody does shortcut keys because it saves you 2 or 3 seconds, you know, and that adds up over time, right? That those shortcut keys, you're doing that because that's saving you a second or 2 seconds. And everyone's saying, well, how many times do you press that key in a day? How many times do you do that? Look, you save 30 seconds, and then times 30 seconds by, you know, how many days you're doing that. Well, this is like that on on mega steroids, because you're not saving any time at all here. You're just wasting time because your system is tied up pretty much while you're waiting for this update to happen. So you've just made a change in your code. You want to check to make sure it works before you move on to the next stage. And you've got this downtime, incredible downtime, because you got to wait. And the more assets you have, the worse it gets. So it's not a deal breaker, but it's a time vampire. So I just added this one character. How long did that take? But now multiply that. So that's a drawback, just something to be aware of. Not a deal breaker, but a drawback. So if I come in here now, and I look at my character, and I go E to customize him, well, this is fantastic. There's, I think I counted 36 or 37 characters to choose from, right? Now, you might think, well, my gosh, I got 37 characters. Well, this sounds bad to say, but it's sort of like the cast from Friends. There's no children, there's no older adults. It's all, but then there's characters that you might even use, right? Like this one. So, I mean, it's great. It's free, and this is one of your free assets. Do you need that in your game? No. So when you start looking at the assets, even though while it seems unlimited, you're constrained by them. So you'd have to go get an asset from somewhere else now. So again, that's something to consider. So even while there's this incredible access to assets, and it makes it really easy to build a game environment, you really have to be aware of what the assets are in the first place before you start building your game, because it could be that you're very well going to be constrained by them. So if you don't plan to do any coding in your game, and you don't have to, you absolutely do not need to learn verse to build a game in Unreal Editor for Fortnite. You absolutely don't need to know one line of code, and you can build an absolutely fantastic game. But you do need to be aware of what you can actually do. So you've got all these devices to choose from, and they're all incredible. You can spawn in motorcycles, helicopters, you have prefab buildings. It's absolutely insane. Like, you can just, building an environment's never been easier, honestly. And it's not just the outside of the building, it's the inside and the out. This seems incredible. When you first look at this, you're like, oh my God, this is what you've got to work with. And so got to kind of work around it. So I don't know, let's say you want to set your story, your game in outer space. You know, I don't believe that's really possible in here, because I don't think it goes to outer space. It goes pretty high in the sky maybe, but you know, we don't have space. You know, we build on islands here, right? So it's island based. So to a certain sense, you've got to familiarize yourself with the devices and the gameplay mechanics that are available and the assets that are available and work your story around that. It's not like you can just imagine anything you want in the world and then make it happen, because you're going to be working with the available assets, and not just the available assets, but the available mechanics of what you can do. And this is without coding, right? And so verse does open up more possibilities, but it's still tied to all the devices that you can use too. It's a paradox in a way. In a sense, you have unlimited assets, but in a sense, you're strangely constrained by them, and you can't do your game development, your game planning, without considering that universe of assets and capabilities. So that's just kind of a drawback. Whereas in Unreal Engine, you can think of it as basically it is anything you can imagine. If you want your game in outer space, underwater, whatever you can imagine, you're pretty unconstrained in Unreal Engine. This is different. And that also ties to another issue, which is if I go to launch this, if I go start game, I can show you this one is, well, when the game starts, I should show you, really. I'll escape in-game and start it. There's a limit on memory. So you see up here on the top. So once you build up your world quite a bit, like right now, we're in the game I'm working on, I'm already probably at like 60%. And I still have a long ways to go. I probably have about 3 weeks of work left on the game. So that's another factor to consider, is memory. You can have a lot of gameplay in these games, but it's not going to like be an open world that goes on forever and ever and ever. These are limited by the memory per game. So there's only so much you can do within this much memory. Like, you're probably not going to build a world up. Like, if I bring on enough of these prefabs, pretty soon, like if I built up like a little city here of these prefabs with a bunch of characters and spawned in cars and stuff, eventually my memory is going to get all eaten up. And so that's a limiting factor, is the memory. One of the biggest points I want to make of all is that, and this is regards to game development in general. And I want to say that I think this is one of the biggest lies about game development, because there's a lot of tutorials, and I'm guilty of this myself, that say, build a game and, build your first game or whatever. And it's really not a game. It's a micro game. It's nano game. It's just like one aspect of a game, like going through a set of doors or jumping across some rocks or something, or shooting at some things. The truth is that game development takes a long time. It could take years to build a game. I mean, that's the dirty little secret, I think, that they don't really tell people. Like, this is going to take a long time to build your game. And that's what's great about the Unreal Editor for Fortnite, is because for now you can actually have the opportunity to bring your game to life, albeit in a confined universe, but it's still your game, and the idea you had for your game, you can still now bring it to life. But the problem is that even with all these assets already ready made and no coding required, it still takes a lot of time. So I'm working on a game right now, and I would say it's going to take about 100 hours. Now, if you go on to the Fortnite and you look at some of the games that are being uploaded on there, I think we can all agree, like, some of them are total, and that you can tell right away that person didn't put much time into the game, because the game makes no sense. It doesn't do anything. And so if you're going to build a game that's worth playing, or to catch people's interest, it's going to take time. And what's crazy is as fast as you can build a game in Unreal Editor for Fortnite with no coding, it still takes a lot of time. And I'm talking about 100 hours, and if you were going to try to build your own AAA game, I mean, you're talking about potentially years to build a game. That's what's great about this, is that it does allow you to build a game fast, but that still takes time, a lot of time. So it's misleading, because I think people think, oh, I'm going to make a game, but no, it's not going to be as fast as you think it is. The other thing, then these are the last things, is, this is honestly still in beta. When you start it up, it says beta right on it. This program, I mean, I forget about it sometimes too. I expect it to work perfectly. I don't know why I have that expectation, but there's still a lot of glitches and things in this program, and you'll encounter them as you're working on your game. Those become time vampires too, because you start thinking that there's something you're doing wrong, but it's nothing you're doing wrong. It's a glitch. It's a bug in the program. But when you're new to the program, and everyone's new to the program, we have to be honest about that. We're all new to the program. So it's kind of funny when you see people doing tutorials and they're like, and of course, we put it this way here, and it's like, we just came out 6 months ago. We're all on the same boat, so nobody's an expert in it, And so it's funny because this is brand new to everybody. There's maybe Tim Sweeney's expert on it, and I'm sure there's some people at Epic Games that are experts that developed it, that are experts on it. It's all new to all of us, but it's buggy. And so there'll be a new version come out. And when the new version comes out, some things will work and some things won't work again. But that's also true with Unreal Engine, but it's an ever-evolving system. Unlike if you look at a program like Source Filmmaker, that hasn't been updated, I think, since 2015 or something like that, or 2012. And people are still using that today to make videos that are getting like millions of views. But the program hasn't changed in 7 years. So that's another thing to be aware of, that you're working on a moving target, a moving platform, basically. That this is all changing. There's bugs in it. And so just be aware of that. You're going to hit some bugs, and just be aware. Again, not to say anything negative about the program at all. And then the last thing is the verse language. The problem that I'm having with the verse language is that I think a lot of the reasons and it's not hard to get started with verse. I mean, you just click the verse explorer here and you can add a new file, and there's your Hello World project, and it comes in as a device itself, and there it is right there, our verse device. It's not that hard to do, right? I mean, they've tried to make it as simple as possible, but as you can see, it's a device itself, the verse language, and it's so tied in to the whole ecosphere here. What is it about verse? Is there was sort of the whole draw of this Fortnite creative and Unreal Editor for Fortnite is the promise of no coding game development, which, sounds kind of crazy if you think about it, because gaming has always been about coding, but that's really what some of this represents. That's what blueprints represent, right? Visual scripting is no coding. Not everybody's cut out for coding. It's very logical. It's very unforgiving. It's very precise. It's very, it takes a certain mindset and skills to be a coder and a programmer. And that's not everybody's cup of tea. And so the promise of Fortnite was that, and blueprints is that, hey, you can build a game and you don't need to know coding. And for a lot of people to be like, myself included, is like, well, hey, that changes it for me. Because I don't sit around coding isn't necessarily what I enjoy doing. I mean, I enjoy the outcome of it, but not the actual process of it. I mean, not because I forgot to leave a semicolon, or I didn't put a colon, or, I missed a parentheses, or, I did something, little thing, and now the whole thing doesn't work. And so, it's just not everybody's cup of tea to do that. And so when I see this verse language, I kind of think like, well, it kind of goes against the whole concept of the whole thing, because the whole idea of this was that it's making game development possible for those people that don't like to code. So anyway, I still think that its Unreal Editor for Fortnite is absolutely fantastic. And I think it opens up a lot of doors, and it can allow people to get started in game development right away. And I would actually recommend getting started with game development in Unreal Editor for Fortnite, and then maybe jumping over to Unreal Engine. But it's not a perfect world. It's not without some of these things that I've mentioned. So we'll see. And everything's changing with AI and everything else. So this could all very well change. But just know that there's limitations within it, and just be aware of them and budget your time. And probably the biggest takeaway is just know it's going to take a lot of time to build a game worth playing. And when I say a lot of time, I mean 100 hours maybe. A month, 2 months to build a game worth playing, if not longer. I just saw a post on one of the Epic Games sites where somebody had built an apartment in Unreal Editor for Fortnite, and it looked good. It looked really good. And someone asked him, how long did that take you? And it said 1 to 2 months. So it's not like this is setting you free completely, like you're going to create Grand Theft Auto with this. No, you're not going to create Grand Theft Auto. You could create something like kind of Grand Theft Auto, but it's not going to be Grand Theft Auto. It's not going to be on the scale of Grand Theft Auto, and it's not going to have all the gameplay dynamics of Grand Theft Auto, but it's going to get you maybe, I don't know, 40% of the way to something maybe like Grand Theft Auto. But then, hey, that's saying a lot with no coding. So anyway, I hope you found this helpful. I hope it didn't turn into a rant, but I just wanted to make people aware of things to consider when they get started with the Unreal Editor for Fortnite.